anyway, it can be very fruitful to think of your instrument like imitating another instrument.
It's
very, very often during teaching, I would say that, okay, think an English horn here, or think a trombone here, and try to have that kind of feeling. So kind of arranging, making an instrumentation of your sonata or even a solo work.
Yes.
You can have these kind of colors and gestures which are more typical of other instruments than the flute. So that would extend your imagination about what the flute is capable to do. Although still I would say that my favorite instrument is the violin. This is one reason probably why I create sounds which are more characteristic of the violin.
Yes.
And also why I'm so interested in double stops and all those sounds which can kind of imitate the violin and the expression of the violin playing. So it really did affect my musical imagination, and it does affect still until these days my musical imaginations. I have to say, very often when playing a phrase, I hear it on violin, not on flute.
The first question, how to play staccato? How to play a better staccato or double toning?
Okay. Well, I'm very happy to speak about all these kind of methodic details. I'm really into it because I think I'm one of those guys who had to learn everything. I was not born to play the flute. Everything was difficult for me, and I had to figure out all the technical details with some help, of course. In some periods I had good teachers, but actually most of it, a lot of it, I just figure out as an adult based on my own self-observation and my own practicing, and also during teaching others, because I started to teach quite early. And so that was my real school, to learn how to play the flute and how to describe things and how to analyze things. So actually the result of this kind of approach was this book. This is here. I can show it to you, which is it's called Flautology, in Hungarian Flautologia, and as I mentioned,
Flautologia.
Again, yes. So this is written in Hungarian because this is my mother tongue. I couldn't have written it in English as specifically as I did it in Hungarian. So it is still waiting for being translated to English and then to Chinese. But this is really my hope that in one day, in a couple of years, you will have this in Chinese, and then you will see a lot of answers for your questions. But for now, of course, I'm happy to try to say some things about these questions. But of course, they usually come with a lot of other knowledge about the body and about the music and about feelings, self-observation, and a lot of things. So speaking about the articulation or about the staccato, most flutists think that articulation is the matter of tonguing. Everybody thinks of their tongues when they hear the word articulation. But I think we have to change this idea. The articulation is how we start the notes and how we stop it as well. This is also important. And this is only after or beyond a certain speed, when it's only the tongue what have to work for articulation. Most of the time we have to create the shape of the individual sounds with the air. So what I usually say that the articulation is 80% air, like support, diaphragm, and 20% tonguing. So if you play separate notes, ta 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 ta, it all comes from here. And the tongue is only making a little contrast to make it more clean, sharper, more direct beginning. Mm-hmm. And also how you stop. You don't stop. In this case, you better don't stop with tongue, because it does give a very ugly sound. If you stop the air with the tongue, you have to stop blowing. You have to stop here. So stop giving air to the flute. So that's a much more natural and more open ending of the sound.
Yes.
So this what happens in a slower tempo. And in this tempo, you have to find the right place of the tongue and the right role of the tongue. And when you go to faster tempo, when it's faster than what you can do, the movement is faster than what you could do with your diaphragm, which is about this one.
To support.
Yeah. So then we cannot move the diaphragm this speed. So then it's only the tongue. And as you go up in speed, even your single tongue will not be fast enough to go faster. So you will switch to. So then you have to feel like playing a long note, interrupted it with your tongue movement. There are some other things which are very important to know about staccato. There's a rule that the lower register you play, the less tongue work you need. Actually, the lowest notes, especially after break, after even a little rest or after breathing, sound very difficult with tongue only. So when you play, they have an extra noise. So I prefer in this case to use a hit on one of the keys, usually the left hand, the third or fourth finger, and give air exactly in the same moment. And then if you get used to it, then you can get rid of that fear what most flutists have from starting a low note. And then the higher you go, the more tongue work you need. And then just one useful exercise for double tonguing, which makes it more even. There's a sound quality, which is just as important as the speed. And actually, the better the sound quality is, the faster the speed will be also, or the possible speed. Is what I made up. I call it a gum pad exercise, because I compare it to the percussionists when they have a little gum, I think it's called gum pad, and they just practice their hits, and they do to make the right hand and left hand the same.
The same.
And just like in right hand, left hand, if you're right-handed, usually the left hand would not be as precise as the right. So here what I do is I change the te and ka according to the very easy system, very logical, which means I always have 16 notes in a bunch, and first I play 8 times T and 8 times K, and then 4 times, 4 times, 4 times, 4 times, 2 times,
and 1.
Yeah. So I do it for you, and this will be Te and this will be Ka. But you have to listen and try to concentrate on the desired result.
To see
result.
If it's the same.
Yeah. So this is very important, that you imagine very strongly, very intensively what you want to hear. That you don't want to hear ta 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 go 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 go, but something very similar. So
yes.
So this is, if you practice it every day for 1 or 2 weeks, you will see an improvement, I'm sure.
Another question I want to ask, because in China there are many flutists that they don't go to conservatory, but they like flute and they play. They don't have much time, like if you do professional, you do 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours. Maybe they only have 1 hour or half an hour. How to organize my time to do practicing?
This is a difficult question to
I
ask
know.
a professional who always,
I know,
especially in those years when I was studying, and and I always had a lot of things to learn, and I was always very frustrated with my playing in a way, because I always realized that I'm far from my goal. So and that time usually I had 4 or 5 hours a day, sometimes even 8 or more to practice.
I ask this because I have many friends or students. They don't do professional. They study, but they study flute. They always use 1 hour. If they have 1 hour to study, they put 1 hour only focus on the piece. On the
yes. I have ideas, but probably different things would work with different people. But it's good when I practice. If I have more time still, I usually divide it in between pieces. And that time when I was a student, I always started with scales before even sound production exercises, which I'm not doing now. But but I planned always in advance. And even now, when I'm preparing for a concert and I have like five pieces or 6 pieces, then I know, okay, today I will have like maybe 3 hours. So let's say 1 hour for this and 20 minutes for that, whatever. So I differ from it, but I have something in my mind, even if I don't write down. If you have 1 hour, probably you should do some kind of warm up. To play overtones would be very important.
Overtones.
To be familiar with the overtone scale and try to make the sound as beautiful as possible. Like you just play the same overtone scale. Let's start on D. Or you can go higher. If you try to keep the same volume, then you will have to work with the air and with the lips together. If you want to maintain the same air, then you will have to work more with the lips. Then you make a diminuendo upwards. Or you want to maintain the same embouchure and give more air. Then you follow the natural dynamics, which means the higher you play, the louder you play. And this is very musical as well. But different musical situations will require you different approaches. Actually, everything is good for sound production if done with open ear. If you just play long notes and you decide that you keep the same dynamic, this is already a difficult thing, especially by the end of your breath. Actually, you could start with some breathing exercise
without
as well.
Vibrato.
Yeah, if you can start with some breathing exercise, just to think that you're slowing down and controlling your breath, especially the exhalation. And it's very, very important to think that you can exhale without any kind of obstacle in the air, in the way of the air. So don't close your throat, don't close your mouth.
Yes.
Or you even can start with your piece, but then, okay, what is the first note of the piece? It's a G sharp. Okay, so then let's find my most beautiful G sharp. For that, let's find out what other fingering can give us a G sharp. For example, middle G sharp, you can play with the low C sharp. So when trying to find the G sharp, you can practice this, and once you found a more cleaner sound with the overtone, it will be even easier to find a beautiful sound on the G sharp. It's all just a part of a lot of things to think about. Also, embouchure. It's so important that you are not using your facial muscles, not smiling when playing, but using these muscles which are really surrounding.
Relax.
Relax the cheek and shape your embouchure hole with these muscles, and think the embouchure not just like a hole, but like a channel, like a tunnel. So it has a third dimension, a depth as well, more forward, or like a peak of a bird, and not just a hole. So this, without this, it's hard to speak about the right sound technique or right exercises.
Yeah.
But of course, I always say that it doesn't really matter what material you use for developing your flute playing. It's what really matters: the quality, the approach, the attention, the concentration. What you are using. So if you have 1 hour, then you have to concentrate 1 hour.
Yes.
And then you go to the music. Maybe you feel already more flexible on the flute, and stop any time in the music and think of any of these things: the sound, fingers, articulation, and just work on one measure as it was an exercise.
那么今天我们非常感谢啊，请到了盖伊老师给我们上了非常宝贵的一课。So thank you, Maestro.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to seeing you in person. Now you can see me, but I want to see you guys too.
Come to listen concert. 来天津。Okay.